Hi class, Professor Pronte here, and today's video is going to focus on our textbook in the chapter Industrial Expansion and Concentration. So what does that mean? I want to take each of those ideas, each of those terms in turn. First up, when the textbook is referring to industrial expansion, what's meant by that is this process by which the American economy transitioned to a more manufacturing-based economy, right? We went away from farming and towards industrial production. Okay, so going along with that, the second part, concentration, this is describing this occurrence in our economy where we saw less and less competition. When you see this term that markets are concentrated, that just means that we've got fewer firms that are dominating and exert a whole lot of power, as opposed to a situation where you've got lots and lots of firms, each one with not much power. Okay. So the big theme then, and the big point of this first video of the module is to understand what happened and what sort of goods the United States economy ended up producing in this time period. And then in subsequent videos, we're going to look at the causes for this. All right, so first up, what happened? The time period in question here, 1850s to around 1910, saw a big evolution in terms of what the American economy produced. At the beginning of this time period, the American economy was heavily focused on producing agriculture. That was where we saw most economic activity. By the end, we had a situation in which factory production was the most significant part of the American economy. And some numbers support this. In the year 1850, when you look at total economic output as measured by GDP, 60% of that output was associated with agriculture. Only 17% associated with industrial production, and 23% through services. In context, if you look at the American economy today, right now we see about just only 1% of our economy represented by agricultural production, about 20% industrial production, and about 80% represented through services. So we've had this big movement away from focus on farming towards what we see today, which is production of services. And in the intermediate there, in the in-between, between the year 1850 and around 1910, we really saw lots of production in factories. Okay. To bring this out a little bit more, we want to dive in and understand what sort of things were actually being produced in our American factories at the time. And here I want to direct you to some of those really useful tables that exist within our textbook. For example, consider table 17.1. I'll give you a second to flip and find that one. This table is showing us some good data here associated with increases in the labor force in different industries. Couple points to make when looking at these numbers. First up, we're seeing increases in production everywhere, right? There was economic growth, significant even economic growth over that 60-year period, right? And so that's to include agricultural production. There were more jobs in agriculture in the year 1910 than there were in the year 1850. However, what we ended up seeing is that while agriculture, there were about twice as many jobs in agriculture, when you look to other areas, railroads, production of iron and steel, manufacturing in general, mining, you saw not just twice as many jobs, but in some cases as many as 20 times more jobs, right? So the punchline for us is that there was increases in production everywhere, but really dramatic increases in production in industrial areas. Okay. I'm going to scroll ahead and take a look at another table as well to give us a better sense of what sort of stuff the American economy was producing. I also really like table 17.3 in your textbook. Flip ahead a few pages and you can find this one. When you look to that right column in table 17.3, we can see those areas within manufacturing which were the most significant in terms of value added from workers. Right? And so what do we see? Lots of production in machinery, lots of production in lumber, lots of production in iron and steel, all sorts of things that were being produced earlier, but just not as significant in terms of the share of our overall economy. All right, guys, so that's all for this first video. I encourage you to click over to the next one so that you can begin to understand the underlying causes that are motivating these changes that we just discussed. See you in the next video. Trying to close this video.